Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PCS 2022 Spring Split. My name's Cerex. I'm joined by Nightstar for the final game of the night. MFT versus Frank Esports. Just a quick shout out, as always, to CTBC Bank we got there, and Caliber. And also thank you to Riot Games, Carry Live Co, Garena for PCS League operations and all the full production as you see here. Shout out to our sponsors. A lot of people expecting more matches tonight. Of course, unfortunately, PSG can't play their matches. They have been delayed until next week. So that big CFO versus PSG matchup, everyone was excited for. We have to wait, Nightstar. It's sad. It would have been a banger. Even the DCG versus PSG, I think, would have been very good as well.
Yeah, PSG is going to have a very... I don't know if it's going to be a fun week for them next week, but for sure it's going to be action-packed because they do have to take the Rift against all three of the other top four teams. So, but we can't get into that here because we do have Frank Esports, Rebirth saying hello.
Yeah. Or maybe just trying to... I think he's trying to fix the
I think he's
Zoom
trying to
issue
fix,
on the camera. Yeah.
He's trying to fix focus, but you know what? We can say he's trying to say hello to Eminem because Eminem gave him a wave back. Yeah,
well, Eminem has been, the focus of this team, so it makes sense. Wave to the carry. If you guys are just tuning in, Frank Esports, kind of that middling team as well. 2-5, going up against MetaFalcon, who earlier tonight got a win against M9, and you were telling me that for MetaFalcon to kind of prove themselves as a top 6 team, they have to win this matchup, the matchup that is threatening them in the standings, and that would make them neck and neck with Frank.
Yeah, them being able to take this match here really creates a lot of separation between them and the rest of the bottom half here. And for Frank Esports, it's about being able to keep pace with MFT in this instance. It's interesting that they do go ahead and bring Rebirth in. The one game we did see him, he didn't look too great. And it looks like our comparison is going to be in that mid lane. Pretender, of course, has been mostly on control mid duty. He's played the Victor, he's played the Veigar, does have the Ahri as well, but it didn't exactly look too sharp. And on the flip side, we know what Wen does. He just kind of runs at you.
Yeah, Wen is someone who we talked about earlier tonight, being part of the dive tactics of MetaFalcon team. It's a fun roster to watch if you haven't tuned in before, like Camille, Akali, Gwen. We saw Graves earlier for the first time from Taco, but 665 was someone who controlled the game against M9. It was the Lee Sin from hell that hurt so much. So it's exciting to watch once again MetaFalcon team look to find success in the PCSs. Nightstar, we are back in pick and ban. MetaFalcon on the red side, Frank on blue. And honestly, a jungle ban against 665 makes sense, but we are kind of seeing standard bans that we've been seeing all night.
Yeah, and the weakness of the Frank Esports draft phase, I feel, has been the fact that they've needed to allocate a lot of bans towards that top side in order to shore up things for Kurt. He has been really picked apart when it comes to a lot of the 1v1 solo lanes here. I mean, even in my notes, I said, can MFT get a carry for Taco and just have him solo ball on Kurt? I think I meant to type in snowball, but it turned into
I like solo ball, dude. Solo ball on top of Kurt. I like that a lot. It definitely feels like Taco earlier on, was solo balling on his Graves, which is going to get banned away. No hole breaker for him, at least on that champion. But hang on a minute.
Wait
everything was banned, but they're like, we can give Zeri over to Eminem, but that's the last person I'd give a Zeri over to.
Yeah, really the highlight player for Frank Esports has been Eminem, the only player who's had early and mid-game impact here. Yes, Pretender has had his moments, but it's mostly come in towards the really later portions of the game with something like the Victor, who's looking to scale really hard.
And of course, for Whale, he's like, all right, well, I'll return to the Jinx once again. Had a pretty good game of it earlier on, but what you're giving up is so massive. It's going to be curious to see how they want to deal with this, because they've left this open intentionally. We get a Volibear jungle with 3 big junglers banned away. No Lee Sin for 665 again. We're getting something that wants to try for a bit of burst. I mean, a lot of ways you could look at this, Nightstar.
Yeah, the Volibear is going to allow them to try and set up for dive play. So this is clearly an angle to just go ahead, lock in Rise on 3 for the side of MFT. And for Frank Esports, do they go ahead and deny away the Rise? That'll be a key question, because if they allow it to go into the hands of MFT, or something like a Galio would somewhat suffice in this instance, like, it's going to be pain train once Volibear hits level 6 down in that bottom lane.
I'm glad you brought that back up. Completely forgot. Diving for MFT is the identity through and through. So we're going to get on Frank Esports the other side. The Viego that's been popular tonight. We get the Nautilus as well. And so the bottom lane
insta-lock.
And yeah, you were mentioning the Rise comes through. We do get the mobility and access from mid lane, and the dive that you wanted to see. Nicely done once again.
Yeah, now for the side of Frank Esports, really the only way to mitigate this is to perhaps ban away, just go ahead, double ban supports here, because that's the only way you can try and mitigate the pain coming down there. They could look to double ban top lane here, but at this point you've already allocated a decent amount of resources. If you end up tossing more, it feels really bad to toss perhaps 4 bans into a top lane. Yeah,
I mean, is it going to be that worthwhile? You've got a Leona band away, though, in the meantime, though. MFT, they've already taken Orianna from Pretender. We talked about things like Veigar. The Ahri also on his recent champion list, which is going to be banned again. I wonder if Veigar is just going to come through and Pretender just decides to run it again.
Could be Veigar here. Honestly, against the Rise, of course, the Cassio, a bit of a classic matchup as well.
Old school.
And it would work really well into a very low range composition that MFT do like to toss in. So I wouldn't be surprised, like, if Pretender has it in his wheelhouse to go for that. But for the side of MFT, if you're looking for a blind pick, you're looking at something like a Renekton or a Gnar here, although they can just go ahead, lock themselves in a support Rakan left available, Alistar to even facilitate more dive, of course. So makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, so Alistar is something that as well. Epoch, it was the Nautilus a little bit earlier, Nightstar, that I think we were pretty impressed with. I'm actually surprised we didn't even think of this. Gwen has just slipped through pick and ban. One of the strongest champions right now. Getting Zeri, Gwen, and I would even say Viego. In the LPL, Viego is top-notch at the moment. That is such a big pick ban phase for Frank Esports in just terms of patch power.
Yeah, it seems like they're getting really all the power picks. However, unfortunately, Kurt hasn't necessarily performed very well in that top lane, even when he does get the Gwen. So I think a lot is going to hinge on how Pretender is going to do. And I like this pick. He goes ahead and locks into Syndra. Syndra has early push potential when it comes to that mid lane against a Rise. Rise has to expend a lot of his mana to get that wave crashed. And he really wants that first back to be comfortable doing it again. And okay, what? MFT, they answer with a Mordekaiser. Okay.
So I've had a bit of recent experience on this one. LGD's top lane of Fairness, pulled out the Mordekaiser as a response to, it wasn't Gwen. I can't remember what it was, and now it's going to kill me. It was a response to a pick, and I want to know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was Gwen. I'm going to have to find out more information on this. Ignore my brain for the time being. I'll have to go searching, but seeing the Mordekaiser as a recent response is kind of nice. And when we talk about dive, I guess if the whole team's diving, to negate the dive on the other end, Mordekaiser does a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, it does. And it's also going to prevent the... I would say it probably prevents the Viego resets from coming through, because you just go ahead, yeet him into the Shadow Realm so he doesn't get a chance to get any resets. Or if the Gwen does get ahead, you are able to remove it from really threatening your backline in this instance. So I can see where the Mordekaiser might have its uses. I don't know how this lane phase will go in particular against the Gwen. And given that Kurt does have Ignite, at least right before we came off of Champ Select, he was hovering that Ignite. I'd imagine that in a 1v1, the Ignite top laner should, in most cases, win.
But we'll see. You know, anything's possible in the PCS, like I'd say in the LPL. I want to pull out that it was against the Renekton, where Fearness pulled it up against Rich. And then the second game around against the Gwen, it got absolutely obliterated. As we know, Gwen in a 1v1 setting does pretty well. So I'm curious to see how it goes this time, because for Frank Esports, they got such powerful picks in this draft. Zeri left open. The Viego follows suit. The Gwen as well. We get a strong lane here for mid with the Syndra locked in. It seems like really good news, but for MFT, momentum comes off the back of beating Sem9 earlier in the day, and their match against Sem9 was pretty clean. It was a carry from 665 on his Lee Sin, and he's got another jungler that can influence with early game agency. So for MFT, signs of life there as well, and definitely a fitting game to finish the PCS Spring Night. Nights are only 5 matches, but they've been a wild ride to say the least.
It's certainly been a bit of a roller coaster of a ride today, starting out with you know, you start out slow, of course, on the roller coaster, and that's what those pauses were. And since then, it's been light speed ahead.
Well, with a 20-minute game, of course it is. Of course it is. I'm sitting here thinking, you know, you and I, what did we say before we went into this game? We thought, it's going a bit too fast. And the night's going really quickly. And of course, as we say that,
we gotta catch up on our schedule, Hysterics.
No.
We're too far ahead.
No, I don't want to catch up on the schedule's been beautiful. We had a huge pause, like a tech pause at the start. Only 10 minutes. I'm overselling it. As there we go. It's just anticipation to get onto Summer's Rift. Frank Esports versus MetaFalcon team. The last game of the PCS night here in the spring split. And both these teams, it's a cop-out to say they both need the wins, but realistically, 6th and 7th respectively, MetaFalcon team can move to 4 and get closer towards the rest of that top 5, cement themselves in the top 6, while Frank Esports can tie themselves up with MFT. A very big matchup to round it out, and we have a Mordekaiser. You're talking about the Ignite in lane. Both top laners have Ignite and TP. There is no flash to speak of.
And that is very interesting, because while we see Ignite on Gwen, a lot of that's because of the fact that she has mobility. Mordekaiser lacking a little bit of that. So Atako has to play really, really perfectly, or just get so far snowballed that it doesn't matter that he doesn't have flash. So that will certainly be a lane to watch, but at the same time, given how MFT have drafted pretty much exclusively to say, hey, we're going to dive you bot lane over and over again, you know, maybe we don't see a ton of focus go towards this top side.
Yeah, that diving comp talked about, MFT running Alistar. We've got one once again on the rise and 665 on the volley bear. So As he starts with his topside cleared pathing towards bottom, it gives an opportunity for us to look towards Whale and Epoch and see what they can set up here with the Alistar. I want to come back to Mordekaiser and Gwen super quickly. Just noting the fact that, you know, I've seen this matchup now before, and the Mordekaiser doesn't mind when you run into him. It's when you try and disengage that he presses E and brings you back in for a secondary trade. And when Gwen's E is down, a nice little timing window for Taco to try and proc passive. So I'll be interested just to watch the micro interactions in that lane while the macro comes down to what happens in the bottom side. Both junglers are there, Nightstar, and I believe that Frank Esports no Raptors awarded, but no vision was translated over to MFT.
Yeah, all eyes will be on this bottom lane, especially once we get level 6 on Volibear and or Rise, or it should be the other way around, I should say. But
that's fair.
It's going to be more than likely large numbers advantages. So nice to see that Pretender has indeed kind of played out what he needs to do in this mid lane matchup. That's get early priority, play around with his jungle, and try and create an early numbers advantage before that level 6 happens, and just try and make sure Hollow's able to stay ahead of this Volibear.
Epoch missing the
3v3
pulverize there. Yeah, it actually turning into a 3v4.
Oh, they're collapsing
4v4 even. On the Pretender, Scatter the Weak's there, but 665 going to get Sky Splitter.
Chain
the
stun.
Burst damage huge. He's over the wall. Stunned up, it won't matter. One follows in. First blood while they 1v2 with Hollow.
Can Hollow
Epoch
get
getting
one?
in the middle of it as well, but that's a nice little setup. And this is great for Frank Esports as they got the Unite onto Epoch. He's ticking down, and Hollow's still dealing with one. Following up. That's kills for the Viego. Double, and now you're in trouble.
Oh, baby. For Frank Esports, they get themselves a double kill in that situation. It looks so dicey, right? Because all of a sudden, Pretender, well, it looked, so it really was a roller coaster of a moment there, right? Because Frank Esports, they started the fight. They had the numbers advantage. All right, we'll get to see the replay. And it looked like, okay, Pretender's coming down. Now we have a 4v3 advantage because Wen's trailing behind. But then 665 scrolls upwards instead, turns onto Pretender, forcing out the flash from Pretender. They get the easy first blood. However, it costs them double flash to do so. And that means 665's put in a poor spot. Wen's put in a poor spot. And MFT's bot lane have to overcompensate. They end up overextending down towards that bottom side. They have to burn summoners. And all hell has broken loose.
2 kills, a bounty, a Viego snowballing a lead. That's all you need to say at this point. And for MFT, the game earlier on was 665 snowballing himself, and the fact that that play went so poorly kind of talks about how this dive is going to succeed in future, because Nightstar, when you set up the composition and what they want to do, a lot of it depends on how this early game goes off, how they can build up momentum and tempo, and even though we're not at that 6 point yet for MFT, it just feels like Hollow's ability to counter gank and now add in extra layers of damage is that much more deadly.
Yeah, that's a key point. He is able to match that dive window, which it should be pretty easy to do so. You clearly know when they want to go ahead and attack your bottom lane in this instance. If he shows up at that time, it's going to be really easy pickings to just get a bunch of resets. And now they're setting up for a bot gank. I do like Eminem hugging the wall, of course.
Oh, hang on, Ignite's down. Taco has decided in the 1v1. They're in the death realm. Hitting him over, he missed! He missed the obliterate! Oh, Taco. No food
Pretender's here
tonight. And now Hollow's here. And in the brush, they knew 665 was there. Frank dumping on MFT.
Oh, man. I was not ready for this Frank Esports. Seems like they've really gone and workshopped a couple things in just a short time. Like, this feels so different to what I was expecting to see, where Frank Esports, they've really consistently been the ones to either like it's been exclusively Hollow finding those plays, or it's just been sit back, wait. Hopefully our solo lanes don't get hard, and then we'll hopefully take a swing at you on that second or third dragon.
Man, that's so rough topside though. That hurts my soul. Taco, he pulled out the Death Realm.
He used so much for that.
And yeah, Kurt responded, to be fair, but killing him under turret, picking up Merc Treads now as well. It's versing the Leeching Leer. A good position this Gwen finds herself in is 665 trying to get around the map. Now his options extend to the top side, but a control ward that spots him out. And speaking of spotting out, I have to say, 665 this whole game night has been spotted out by FAK Esports, and they're really good vision coverage.
Yeah, I think it also helps that FAK Esports got to watch that previous game to just have a reminder of, hey, we have to keep track of this guy. Otherwise, he will just continue to attack us in these lanes. And if we're ever lackadaisical in our vision setup, he will hard punish us. And now we're looking really to kind of flip the game here for MFT. If they don't win this, it is dire.
Well, 665 has the ulti to get stretch line in. Rebirth sets it up. Scatter the Weak, beautiful. As Kurt runs in with a needlework, the Gwen already scary. Stormbringer in the backline might not matter as FAK Esports had this fight under their wing. One jumps back on in. Lucky to survive as Taco now doing the same. Realm Warp onto Rebirth, but he's buying time, buying space, and FAK are going to send members right after him. Nice flash over the wall. Taco not long for this world, and FAK are gonna pick up their 6th kill and make this game look ever so complete.
Man, where has this FAK Esports been?
True.
Oh, it is so nice to watch. Of course, MFT, when they took that fight, they understood that there's a bit of a timer on their own composition because of the fact that they are running champions like the Rise, like the Volibear, who are going to lack a lot of damage when it comes moving forward into the game. Even on this Mordekaiser, it doesn't scale well because he doesn't have flash. So while you are going to be able to take fights, that's only if they run towards you. It's so easy to kite out these team fights with the Syndra and with Azeri.
Wow, Rebirth with a prediction. Whale Flash and Rebirth dredge line. The exact spot. This is, you're right, where is this FAK Esports been? Rebirth had a pretty lousy showing, I will say. Comes into this game looking amazing on the Nautilus, and the rest of the team, you could say the same. Replay time as Whale's traps were a bit short.
Yeah, short, and
oh
the lockdown.
My God.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
That was absurd. That was definitely the epitome of mad life.
Yeah.
Because he threw out the prediction even before Whale knew where he was going.
Yeah. He knew that Whale didn't know, so he actually knew. It's the biggest 5-head I've ever seen. Beautiful stuff from Rebirth. A real nice prediction. Kind of telling you how this game's going. FAK Esports in control. 3,000 gold. And look at Taco. No flash. We already talked about Kurt out with the needlework. And Realm Warp not up and available. Hollow now with his 4th kill. And this Mordekaiser pick, because of that dive that he insinuated, it's just going downhill.
Yeah, he started out that dive, and now this missing flash really punishing. They can dive though.
Dawnbringer comes down, and of course with the unleashed power, there's no turret aggro to follow suit. 665 finally getting to pop the ulti, but look top. There's a Herald here as well. The trade is going to be for first turret blood.
Yeah, it's going to go into the hands of Kurt as well, being able to split that. So really, really nice there. We finally get to see Kurt in a power position. We'll see how well he responds from this spot, because we haven't seen him in a position of power yet. It's always been him down considerable fashion up in that top side, always having to make up for it by roaming around and that usually just snowballs out of control. If you're roaming around, your team doesn't find those plays, you just continue to sack Bold. So nice to see him doing well in this game, and now we get to see how Frank Esports transition a lead.
Because for Frank Esports, they've kind of been a predictable team. Like, what we've seen is it's always been a one-track mind of Eminem is going to do well in his lane, and he's going to be our hope. In this game, Pretender well enough within his lane. Hollow carrying is, kind of helping out and setting up the point as well. Hollow has been pretty decent too. But Kurt, someone as well who's now got control within his own lane state. So a new Frank Esports to watch. And when you talk about how they're going to transition their lead, well, right now, Frank Esports are 4,000 gold ahead after the turret play up in the top side. An extended top lane Dragon that's given over as a trade that they may not care about, and Frank still positioning, hovering around mid lane turret at 13 minutes of the game, looking for extra plates to lead him towards those 2 items.
Yeah, Frank Esports dominating so far, and for MFT, really the only big play they've been able to find has just been that dive onto Pretender in that mid lane. So really, their fight windows are just going to be around does 665 have his ultimate, and is there a dive available for them to try and take here? As when and 665 have both of their ultimates up and available, but
yep.
For the most part, it's hard to make a play around a Mordekaiser because he wants to pop that ultimate. And if you're popping your ultimate as Mordekaiser, it defeats the purpose of bringing in extra members.
And he gets solid out at this point with the Riftmaker response, and with Kurt being the big unit that he is. So I think further to your point, Taco in a really hard position. But you're talking about dive here for MFT when, we've seen it once come through in this game. The Volley Bear, the Rise, the setup hasn't been there. And that's because Frank Esports keep denying options. As they walk through, they set up Vision. They've been tracking 665 throughout the whole game. Remember, you and I were talking about Vision in the first 3-4 minutes. And 665 was walking over so many wards. They knew exactly where he's pathing. And he's been punished for it ever since.
Yeah, and now, for the side of Frank Esports, they have complete control over that top half of the map with their wards, which means that they are just free to take this Rift Herald, and it should also mean that Kurt knows that something's up here. They haven't seen him up top side. He has to be towards that bottom side, and they've brought a whole squad as well.
But what's it going to cost in the end? The question that keeps needing to be asked. He knows it's there. Kurt getting Chilling Smite down. He's going to go into immune in a second as Realm will come through. It's a flash in. Right in the circle. Everybody stands still. The needlework, though, buying time. Turning the turret off. Not going to get the damage down. Herald's going to come through, and now the mid lane turret is going to be the cost of the 1v3.
He plays it as well as he could once the dive actually happens, but
They're gonna lose too.
He puts himself in a poor spot. At least on the flip side, his team is able to get a whole lot for the cost of his life, so they do trade up in that situation. But for the side of MFT, at the very least, you do get a tower and you do get the kill, so it's admirable trade for the side of MFT is really the best way you can phrase it.
I like Nightstar, you're being kind. You're really trying to give them something here. Because MFT have got nothing to hold on to, and, while somewhat trading when you're behind is great, losing 2 turrets in the mid lane, opening up Vision, and denying more jungle camps, denying 665 further into this game. We've got an Ocean Dragon coming up, an Ocean Soul that will spawn in 3 Dragons' time if Frank Esports keep their control under their wing. So, still kind of worried about MFT because you already talked about the scaling elements coming through. I think for Zeri, for, Kurt, Hollow, how they play out this game in these fights, if they get a reset, if they get that pick that their comp's so good at doing, it just feels like MFT have to run for the hills.
Yeah, thankfully for the side of MFT, Ocean's probably one of their best options to roll as far as not necessarily a Dragon Soul, but because of the fact that you were able to get Mountain Dragon, it's not the worst dragon to give up when it comes to just stats wise, right? It's really that Dragon Soul that you're concerned about when it comes to Ocean. So you're willing to give up this dragon, maybe even that next one. The next one's a little bit questionable, but at the very least, you're very comfortable with just conceding this one and just trying to farm up whatever gold you can find on the map.
Giving Wen his second item, second item for Whale as well. So I like that you bring up timing here on the Dragons. 4 minutes 40 until the next. Baron coming up in 2 minutes 20, but for Frank Esports pushing these sidewave turrets, they're trying to match Wen, who is going to pick up the second one here. No one's touching him for the time being. And when you're the team behind, coming back to your point, trading is still good when your goal is just exchanging hands, but not if you get caught out. Epoch has to burn the ulti at half HP. They chase him as Scatter the Weak hits max range, and Taco followed by Hollow. Frank Esports get the turret. The trade continues, but MFT have still left one in their side lane. He is completely untouched. Now, Kurt's finally backing away, even a teleport committed by Pretender.
Interesting that they actually do commit the teleport coming in from Pretender in that instance. Just because that when on the Rise, the reason why Rise isn't necessarily used as a side lane threat is because he doesn't push turrets that fast with his autos. He doesn't also build a whole lot of AP to help supplement those turret taking abilities. So unless if you're going for some wild build, throwing in a Lich Bane or something, which I would love to see just randomly, that would just be fun. It exemplifies Machine Gun Rise to a T, but it's really going to take him a while to chew through these towers.
Yeah, it is. Fimbulwinter picked up, though, while we're speaking about items. So one is 2.5 strong. Kind of giving some of the hope for the roster of MFT. Gold has been kept at 4,000. So the lead hasn't extended here for Frank Esports in the first 20 minutes of the game. And we're kind of now just waiting for these next couple of objectives. Frank have destroyed tier 2 in the bottom, in the mid. Top side is the only side remaining. Trying to find a pick as the comp does so well. Feels like the next approach before we get towards risking it around Dragon, or at least getting some of the setup that would allow Frank to draw MFT in.
Yeah, and this next fight, I mean, it's going to be really important for when to complete his Frozen Heart by the time this next big fight does come around, because as it stands, with just the Glacial Shroud, it doesn't give him any value. He needs the attack speed slow to actually have some impact with this itemization. Before then, it's not really all too good because you do have to deal with a Syndra. You have to deal with a Gwen. So, and the fact that Eminem's more of the Triforce tanky sort of build means that he's not outputting a ton of damage. It's really whittling you down through 1,000 cuts.
Well, Frank Esports going to go for this 1v1. My doorbell's ringing Night Star, but we've got a fight to hit as Taco going to get the ditty of it. We get the ulti through as well. Ulti for ulti. Taco in the Death Realm. Kurt playing it out. Kites around, but it's Taco in the end. He gets his revenge.
Oh, dear. Kurt whiffs on one of those key ultimates. I think it was either, it was the second to last one, where he just whiffs completely, and that's so much of your damage just gone as the Gwen. In fact, you could even say that the first couple just don't matter because of how much the damage ramps up on your ultimates. It's really those later ults that you need to land, and he misses one of the last two, and that's going to cost him big time. He takes a solo death. Now all of a sudden Taco has a CS lead. He's going to be close to, okay, he is pretty close to that Gnasher's Tooth. Actually has all the components, just hasn't completed it yet. As FAK is
actually getting drawn in, yeah. We'll see if there's any follow-up here for Frank Esports. You know, again, this game is not closing out. It's still at a 4K gold lead. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
MFT are making this competitive, and it ain't over, despite what we think is Holo wants to jump in once again. He wants Taco. Scout of the Week is out of range. Taco walks to the left, and outside he goes. For Frank Esports, it's simple. Right now, they need to find that pick. They need to bring them around Dragon, the third one coming up. And it seems like it's going to be theirs without contest.
They will be able to secure it without contention, which is a little bit surprising, but I also think that it's an acceptable trade for the side of MFT because, again, the Ocean Dragon itself isn't to die for, but Ocean Soul has to be where they do contest. They have to contest that next dragon in this instance. And an interesting build coming out here for Pretender as he's gone for the Leandries, which we don't see a ton on the Syndra, and we also see an early Banshee's Veil, another item we just haven't seen a whole lot lately. So it's really just saying that Pretender wants to play very defensive. Okay, thought a pick might have come through, but he's going to be playing a role to just try and peel for himself and be as annoying as possible because, of course, you also get ability haste from that Mythic passive.
I want to point out, you're speaking about builds. Holo's got Blade of the Ruin King second. Like, this is not the wit's end. This is a help to Baron start, as Frank Esports going to do exactly that. Now, one is 3 items strong, and 665 is nearby. You can see down the bottom. Oh, we're doing this again. But you know what? The revenge served ice cold. You've got Kurt with 2 items showing up before Taco gets his. Solo kill after solo kill. We continue down the rabbit hole as Frank Esports looking more seriously at the Baron now.
And at long last, Kurt able to find a solo kill of his own, and because that removes that side lane pressure, I thought they'd take it a little bit slower and allow him to push on up, try and crash that into that tier 3 tower, but now we're just going to have action.
They know the health bar. They've got a ward on the right side. They know the positioning as well at 3K. They're going to start this up as they're on to Rebirth. Look at that. Reset City for Whale. Holo as well has to get out. Frank Esports, the team ahead. Absolutely blasted, but Eminem has already pulled the crash down out. He wants to find the fight elongated. But Frank Esports don't get an opportunity. MFT, they're more than in this game. They are a threat. And I don't think we can discount just yet.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the inexperience from the side of Frank Esports, right? How many times have we had them ahead at this point in the game? Not too often. And when you do have to deal with a bit of I feel like an off meta, at least when it comes to PCS wise composition, you're not used to dealing with something like the Mordekaiser, like the Volibear, at least in the PCS setting. So they're just trying to figure out how to play against this composition, and they saw that, hey, Mordekaiser's dead. That means we can actually play the Baron game. We don't have to worry about Mordekaiser yoinking our jungler out of a smite fight. So I think that's why they overcommitted to it rather than slow playing, allow Kurt to crash the wave into that tower and threaten the split push before then calling for the Baron play.
Or, you know, threaten away the team fighting capabilities of Kurt. But when he doesn't have that ulti, 5v4 not going to be as threatening. I think importantly enough, we know Super Mega Death Rocket is down from Whale, who went back, picked up the Lord Dominic's regarded as his 3rd item. That rocket, not as big a cooldown in the late game, but still significant to mention. As both teams doing the Baron dance, but in 1 minute 20, we're going to do the Ocean Soul dance. Frank Esports, that'll be a very defining moment for them if they can pick it up, because otherwise, I think we continue talking about the scaling as... Is it time to pause? I think it's time to pause. We're doing this again, aren't we? We're doing this again. Who wins it? Kurt's going to ulti first. Onto Taco, ignite down. Stops the needlework in his track. We keep doing this. This 1v1 gets more intense as the game goes on. At 26 minutes, the 4th time we've had a solo kill between these 2 top laners. Kurt and Taco are trying to Giga Chat this.
They're really just that was truly a Wild Wild West moment. You know,
Hell yeah.
He comes out of the bush, they stare at each other in the eyes and just go, all right, 3, 2, 1, go. And then they just pressed all their buttons.
Dude,
and
it's a slither of HP that it's winning out by each time.
Yeah.
Kurt now 2 in a row. I hope people in chat are keeping a timer. Sorry, a counter, I should say, because it's a big solo kill when Taco might have TP, but Kurt pushes him out. He's going to have to reposition. Hollow coming from the wing. This could be it against MFT. Frank Esports, a defining moment. Crashdown comes through from Eminem. Watch the Zeri as the Wombo comes through. 365, excuse me, 665. In the backside goes down. A triple kill as well. Eminem cleaning up. It's a penta denied. But Eminem on this Zeri showing why it needs to be banned away. Frank Esports, they've done it. One may get the kills, but it's still Eminem with the carry.
Now, what can they take off of this? That's going to be the question, because they're not going to be able to end the game straight up here. It is, of course, a Zeri that doesn't necessarily have a ton of damage to shred through towers. So it is just going to be one tower and the Ocean Soul. So at the very least, they get the next big combat objective for themselves, which is going to be that healing. And that's going to make a huge difference. We talked about those 1v1s between Kurt and Taco. I think they just got way more lopsided.
Dude, like Zeri in team fights. Oh, it's just so good. It's so good. And one props to him when the Rise was in a pretty decent position through this mid-game. Are doing quite a lot, but Eminem not targeted, not touched. No one cares about him. The 6-0 Zeri, now 4 items strong. Ocean Soul picked up at the end of live there, and 6,000 gold, now the lead for Frank Esports. And I was saying this before, Nightstar, with Frank now having the Ocean Soul, a lot changes once again, and we're in a game where the Zeri has all the tools to transition this team to the rest of what we'll call the late game.
Not only that, this Gwen has all the tools.
Yeah.
Now has a third item, has the Banshee's Veil. I do question the Banshee's Veil in this case. I think, something like a Spirit Visage would have been nuts, because A, you have Ocean healing, but B, you just have so much healing from your kit in general that it would be better if you're looking for an A or an MR item to just augment your healing on top of it. But that's not where we're going to get, and we are seeing the 4-1 essentially set up here.
Oh, look, Taco action in 1v1 down the bottom lane again. That was easier for Kurt. Banshee's Veil maybe working out as Taco can't do a thing in this game. In a 5 versus 4, Kurt now with the TP if he wants to join in, but he's going to end the game. MFT in a bad fight and in a bad state as they're on their last legs. Frank Esports buying the time with low health bars, and once again, Eminem is crashing down. Flashes over, looking for Whale, chasing him down. The final kill makes triple, and Frank Esports will equalize with MFT, both in this game and in the standings, make the PCS more competitive in such a competitive way.
Man, Frank Esports. We were just saying it time and time again throughout the game. Where has this team been? It feels like such a stark shift from what we even saw yesterday. So, huge congrats to them and being able to step up and really showcase what this squad can do with these 5 players. I would say Kurt, it was a slight bobble there with the solo death, but he makes up for it in a big way.
Yeah, the bobble is context, right? Like, Kurt's game was one of his best. On the Gwen, the carry potential there. Like, a lot of people coming through and will be saying, like, what happened to MFT? But in that game, it was a Meta Falcon team in control. 6-6-5. What can you say? Like, I feel like Frank Esports got the ball rolling. Hollow in such a good position. A bit of a jungle diff, if you're asking importantly. And the vision control But yeah, the vision you just mentioned. On 665, they tracked him throughout his whole jungle.
Yeah, it was really the vision setup during the early game that prevented 665 from getting those ganks that he would have liked to get on a Volibear. This pick, of course, really about the hitting the lanes early on, and also that first level 6, level 7 ult usage to dive a tower, make a play. But it was really level 7 where he could make his only play, dive in the mid lane onto the Syndra with Wen, and it just wasn't enough to snowball the lead. And the other pick, of course, to highlight is just the Mordekaiser. He goes for the Ignite Mordekaiser, which means he doesn't have a whole lot of team fighting tools. And that's why you just constantly saw Taco try and take the 1v1s, because that's the only thing that his summoner setup would allow him to do. He can't walk in for a team fight if he doesn't have flash. He can't flash all the Zeri because it involves the Zeri being close enough, and he has Ignite.
And it's funny because in that 1v1, we never really saw them join the fight anyway. Like, it was all about the side lane, all about the 1v1. The solo kills galore, 4, 5, 6 solo kills in the end, I think routed it out. Really fun to watch, you know, Taco versus Quiet, not Quiet, sorry, in the matchup. We saw him before on Gwen. When we saw Kurt versus Taco, to get that right, apologies, in such an exciting matchup itself. And that game kind of came down to inches. You could see that MetaFalcon team were coming back. There was that huge lull in the mid game where Frank weren't able to push the gold lead, to get the base broken down, force Baron, get the picks they wanted. I think MetaFalcon team played it very controlled, but when we got into the team fights and when Zeri had 3 items, it's really easy to walk around their Nightstar when M&M has a team that is all off in different directions, controlling space.
Yeah, by that time, really the MetaFalcon team, which could have been a lava composition, slow, steady, and really threatening, it really turned into a molasses comp where it was slow and steady, really ugly. So not a whole lot of threat towards the side of Frank Esports. And I mean, Frank Esports, they played it well. They understood that they still had scaling on their side. Even though this gold lead wasn't getting giga accelerated, they could take their time as long as they make sure the Jinx wasn't given the opportunity to snowball on them in that big fight.
That's right. You know, because Jinx never got the opportunity in a lot of the games we saw today. Again, a really nice way to round out. We are waiting for MVPs to finish things off. I think after that game, I think Holo deserves it. I think Holo controlled jungle really nicely. M&M is the team fighting king, but, you know, let's be real. We know what the fans like. We know what the fans like. It'll probably be Zeri or Gwen. To be fair, Kurt getting solo kills, that's that extra treatment, you know, for any PCS fan.
The sugar spice to any top lane success, getting those solo kills. I mean, he did win 2 out of 3 duels, so
true.
You know, he did win the majority of the 1v1s in that game.
Technically 3 out of 4, because the dive early from the Mordekaiser kind of, you know, set him up. So that duel, that extends throughout the whole game, man. And, you know, you can just see, it might look like a casual gold lead, but I think MFT at the 20 to 25 minute mark, it doesn't change. It even slumps a little bit. So we give props to MFT for holding out for so long, trying to get that dream team fight.
Yeah, they were able to, from 12 to 25, hold it steady for the most part. So credit goes out to them to keeping it, holding down the forts. But unfortunately, the dam broke right around that 25-minute mark, just shortly after. And the side of Frank Esports were able to really finish out that game. We get to see the damage charts. I mean, it's really looking like we're leaning towards that Gwen because of how much damage she got to do against a Mordekaiser.
God. Oh, there you go.
It's Zeri.
Hey, yeah, it's Zeri. M&M. What more to say? The carry of this team, the core player, the focus, again, steps up huge. The game really wasn't about Zeri. It was about everything else, but we just got to that point where M&M was in a great position and he took over these fights triple after triple, cleaning up. the damage percentage kind of tells the story, right? It was only that late game damage that we saw him starting getting involved.
Yeah, and you could see what MFT were trying to do. We go ahead, give them the Zeri, but then we just dive her relentlessly and don't allow her to scale up and start doing that damage in the mid game when you hit those 2 items. But I mean, if you aren't able to get that initial kill onto the Zeri, she gets out of hand very, very quickly.
Well, as we recap today, a nice way to round it out once again. A Zeri to finish it off, and Frank Esports to equal up with MFT. Look at the standings. The middle of the pack is closer than ever. PSG Talon, who unfortunately weren't able to play today. We've got J-Team, we've got Beyond Gaming, Frank Esports, MetaFalcon Team. Like, that is a very short gap. And again, we're just kind of showing the more competitive nature of this split. You're talking about PCS in the past being top-heavy. I feel like this time around, it is nicely meted between.
Yeah, it does look like we've got a bit of a clump in the middle, which is nice to see here. Of course, CTBC, Fine, Oyster, and Deep Cross Gaming. These 2 teams have really streaked across so far. We'll see if any of that changes once PSG does get to play those 2 teams. But for the most part, like, they really are in a league of their own.
Well, Force M9 is all I'm going to say. They're versus Frank Esports tomorrow. That will be the last team that they haven't faced yet. If you're just tuning in, Sem9 have lost to every team but Frank Esports, and frankly, I'm down for it, and that was not a pun I wanted to deliver. You're talking about CFO. They're versing Beyond Gaming tomorrow. That's a banger. That's a matchup I'm down for. Even Impunity versus Hurricane Gaming, both those teams really developing as the split's going on. So, Nightstar, it's heating up a little bit, and I feel like as we approach the halfway point of the split, it's showing that PCS is once again a region that people need to start watching.
Yeah, and Sem9 fans were really hoping not to see this Frank Esports come out in this game, because that makes that matchup tomorrow even more spicy, because Frank Esports really stepped up here in the last game of the day. Impunity, Hurricane Gaming, these teams love to flip. I think we're going to get a really, really insane matchup.
Yeah, easy to say, isn't it? At least going through today, we get that semblance of power that we were kind of looking forward to at the very least. Nightstar, it's a pleasure to be with you and a pleasure to have you here for our glorious Saturday. Thank you for casting with me for a second time onto PCS. It is always fun running through some of the games. Thank you to our lovely English broadcast crew and our production crew. Thank you again to all of our sponsors. It is bye for now, but not forever. We'll see you tomorrow with more PCS action.